the first thing that we are going to do for our spices for the calabaza, for the pumpkin, is I'm going to show you what I like to do with the anise. Now, you do not have to do this if you don't want to. I just do it so that the pieces of the anise are very fine. It's almost like ground anise, but it's not technically ground. I just take the anise, I put it on a parchment paper, and I break it up with a little rolling pin, just like that. And that's just so that it can incorporate easier. And when you bite into it, it's not as thick, okay? So just break it up. Just like that. And I put it on the parchment paper just so I can scoop it up easier. And then you make it as fine as you want to. Just like that. And that should be enough. Doesn't need to be super fine or anything. And then I just take my paper, get my little dish, and pour it back in there. And you still have a few little chunks in there, but not too many. Okay? So for the process of the pumpkin, what we're gonna start doing first is I'm gonna take this 6-quart pot, and I take 1 piloncillo cube. You can break it up. You can try to break it up. Sometimes it's very hard. I don't even try to do that anymore. I just pop it into the pot along with my sugar, because I do add more sugar, and the water. And I dissolve this first before I put in my pumpkin. So we're gonna get this on the stove, and we're gonna dissolve this, and then we're gonna add our pumpkin and our spices. So I'll be right back. Let me get this boiling on the stove. Okay, now for the pumpkin. I like to get my cooking pumpkin, and it's already been washed and dried. And what I do is, of course, the skin is pretty thick. I take my cleaver and I try to cut it the best I can. I mean, they're hard. You just have to take your time and be careful with them. Okay, I just go around and start slicing it. So we're just going to keep going around with the pumpkin. Let's go ahead and slice this. And then you're going to scoop out the seeds. I'm going to scoop out the seeds and the pit. And then if you can, if not, sometimes the skin is very, very hard. What I do is I just go trimming it a little at a time, just like that. Okay? Just like that. Just remove it a little bit at a time. Just be careful with it. Don't get in a hurry. Okay? And then we're going to cube them into smaller pieces. Put them in the bowl, and that's what we're going to cook off. So I'm going to keep going with this, and then I'll be back when I finish, and then we're going to add the spices. Okay guys, now I have the syrup simmering here. I put the piloncillo in and the sugar to dissolve it, and there's still a little chunk in there, but that's okay. Now we are going to add in our spices. I'm going to add a little dash of salt. We are going to add some cinnamon sticks along with some powdered cinnamon. And then of course we're going to add our anise seeds and some cloves. Now I always tell y'all, adjust your seasoning to your liking. After the pumpkin cooks, if you feel that you need more cinnamon or more anise, you add it in there. It's okay. Now we are going to add in the pumpkin in here. Just be careful, don't splash yourself, because the syrup is very, very hot. And this is going to take anywhere from half an hour to 45 minutes. And we'll be checking it in between just to make sure that, you know, it's coming along. And after we get this simmering on the stove and I get it where I want it, I'm going to move y'all over and we're going to start working on the dough, because the dough is a yeast dough, so it does need time to rest. And this is a lot of pumpkin that I'm making because I am going to be making another recipe. So I'm not going to use all this pumpkin for the empanadas. I'm going to save some for a pumpkin pie later. I'm just going to stir this around just a little bit. It will reduce, so don't worry about that. If we have to add a little bit more water, we will. But we're going to let the pumpkin cook down just a little bit, before we add anything. Okay, I'm gonna bring this back up to a simmer and we're gonna let this go and we'll be back in a little bit. Okay guys, I'm gonna show you how the pumpkin cooks down. Okay, it's been up here about 20 minutes and the pumpkin of course releases its own juice, its own water. So as you can see here, it's simmering and I just have it at a low heat. So we're gonna let this cook down. We are gonna move over to the dough. I'm gonna bring you in for a close-up so you can see the simmering. Okay guys, we are gonna make the dough. This is the evaporated milk and we are going to proof the yeast. So what I do is I put the yeast into the milk and I put a little bit of the sugar so that the yeast can cling on to something. Give it a mix and we're gonna let this sit for about 5 or 10 minutes until you see all the bubbles. Okay, so we're gonna set that aside. And the ingredients that we have are 2 eggs that we're gonna slightly beat. As you can see here, the yeast is alive. I let it sit there for about 10 minutes. Here I put in our flour. I'm gonna put in a little bit of anise, a little bit of salt, and the remaining sugar. Okay, then we're gonna add our butter. Everything goes in at once. Okay, and then we add our lightly beaten eggs. I'm gonna move the flour over a little bit so I can throw in the yeast. And then lastly, the yeast with the milk. And you wanna get everything in there. Okay, now we're gonna start to beat this. Start on slow speed. And we're gonna beat this until it comes together. It's gonna take about 3 minutes total. I'm gonna crank up the speed and we're gonna let it go for 3 minutes and then we'll be back to show you what it looks like. Okay guys, at this point, I take it down. I take down the mixer and I wanna make sure that there's nothing stuck at the bottom of the bowl. Seems like everything's okay. And then we're gonna let this go for about 5 minutes, okay? Right now the elasticity, it's just kind of real pulley like that. It needs to be really elasticy. So we'll be back in a few minutes after this has been on here for about 5 whole minutes. Be patient with it and it will reward you at the end. So I'll be back and show you what it looks like. Okay guys, I have let this beat for about 10 minutes. We are gonna stop it now and take it out and just form it into a ball. Now the dough is very soft now and that's exactly what you want. Can you do this by hand? Absolutely, but that's a lot of kneading the dough to get it to this consistency, okay? So we're gonna put it into a bowl. Okay, can you get it to this consistency by hand, by kneading it? Absolutely. It's just a lot of kneading and I just prefer to use the mixer. But I have done them by hand and I will do them if you want me to show you. Now, we're gonna spray a bowl and we're gonna put our dough in there, spray the top, and we're gonna cover it with some saran wrap and we're gonna let this rest in a draft-free place. We're gonna let it sit until it's doubled in size. It takes about an hour, hour and a half. I cover mine with an additional towel just to make sure that it stays real warm, just like that. And I pop it in the microwave, of course. The microwave is off and I just leave it in there and forget about it for about an hour and 15 minutes. And normally that's enough time for it to rise. And I'm gonna show you what the pumpkin looks like. It's been cooking for an hour. Okay guys, this is what the pumpkin looks like after it was cooking for an hour. I am going to take out the cinnamon sticks. And there's another one in there somewhere. In the meantime, I'm gonna break it up and it normally breaks up pretty easily. If it's not breaking up for you, that means it's not cooked down enough. Here's the other cinnamon. So you need to cook it down some more. If it's not breaking up for you. Almost like a mashed potato consistency. I'm gonna tilt this over so you can see it. And just with the spoon, you should be able to break this up. And you're gonna taste it at this point. If it has enough sugar for you or enough, you know, cinnamon, and this is the time that you wanna adjust the seasonings to it, the flavoring. And you adjust it how you like it. That's the good thing about making your pastries at home and your, you know, your reposterias and your all the bakery stuff that we like to eat during this time. I'm gonna take a smasher now and I'm gonna mash it. You really want it really pureed. See how it starts to change the texture of it? And of course we're gonna need to let this cool down so we can be able to stuff our empanadas after the dough is ready. Let's go ahead and give it a taste. It's hot. Perfect. Very nice. Okay guys, I have everything set up for the empanadas. I have the dough here and wow, look at how much that rose. That means we have a good dough. All right, we're gonna take this out. Real soft. Okay, I'm just gonna turn them over and we're just gonna take the air out of it, and I'm gonna work in 2 sections so I can keep this on the board here. Okay, we're just gonna make the little balls so we can roll these out. Now the size, you make them whatever size you want. That is totally up to you. I don't like mine too big. You know, I just like a normal size. So I'm gonna see if this, yeah, that should be good right there. About this size, maybe a little bit bigger. Yeah, about that big. About what fits in the palm of your hand. Okay, we're gonna set them here to the side. We're gonna make the little balls. You can do them like that, or you can just twist them here on the board. You know, turn and tuck under like that, just to make the little ball. It's up to you, however you want to make them. If you just want to rip a piece off and just do it that way, that's fine too. I try to keep them uniform so when they bake, they all bake at the same time. Or you can just do them like this, just roll them. Whatever's easy for you. I just act like if I'm making tortillas, and that's just how I do it. That's just how I've gotten accustomed to do it. Okay, I'm going to keep going with these and then we'll be right back to fill them. Okay guys, I rolled out the little balls and I have them here. I did let them sit for just a few minutes. You want them to get a little, release the gluten to get a little soft. Now, when you have, we're going to roll these out. You don't want to put too much flour. You just need very little, like that's, you know, the extent of it. You don't want to add too much flour. And you're just going to roll them out to the size that you want them. Basically, they're like a tortilla. You're going to roll like a flour tortilla. Just like that. And that's it. Just right there, a small flour tortilla. And then we're going to take our filling, and you add your filling. Don't overstuff, because you don't want all the stuff coming out. And then I take a little bit of egg wash that I have here that we're going to brush on top as well right before they go into the oven. And just go around the edges and then fold over and then just crimp it down with your fingers or with a fork. However you decide you want to do it, that's up to you. You can do it either way. Let me show you with the fork. Now with the fork, you just press on the edges, just like that. Or like I said, if you don't want to put one, don't put it. Just make sure that it's sealed nice and tight. And that's it. There's your empanada, okay? So we're gonna make a couple more. And like I said, easy on the flour. You don't need too much. Just very light. And if you find that the dough is shrinking back, just set it aside and let it rest a few minutes, 5 or 10 minutes, and that helps loosen it up, and you're gonna be able to roll it out with no problem. Add your pumpkin filling. Okay, and then I'm gonna egg wash the sides. Flip it over. And press. You want a tight seal so everything doesn't come out, just like that. And that's it. Nothing fancy. And I just keep putting them on a tray. I'm gonna preheat the oven to 375. Okay guys, I got them all rolled, and now we're gonna take some of that same egg wash and brush them lightly and pop them in the oven. That's at 375 for about 15 to 20 minutes, but just keep an eye on them. Okay, there we go. So they're going in the oven and we'll be back in a few minutes. Okay guys, these are the empanadas and I pulled them out of the oven. I let them sit to cool for a little bit. They were in the oven for 25 minutes. I rotate my racks to make sure everything browns evenly. I'm gonna break one open so you can see what they look like on the inside. And there you go. And what I will tell you about this recipe, it's not very sweet. Like I tell you, adjust the pumpkin, add more sugar if you need to. The dough is not very sweet, so if you want to add a little bit more sugar to that, you can. This is my recipe. I know there's a lot of recipes for empanadas, and I'm gonna have some more for some empanadas dulces later on. This is my recipe for today. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you try it. If you do and like it, come back and give us a big old thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and go and visit us on Facebook at Virtual Kitchen with Laura. Okay guys, that's gonna conclude my video for today. Thank you for watching. Talk to y'all later. Bye.